Hey, if it's Tuesday in your neck of the woods, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. Hey, welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I am Justin the Guy, and hopefully you can hear me and see me and all those great things because I'm a bike mechanic, does YouTube, which, it's not the greatest solution, but hey, we try to get the information out there. So, hey, welcome to my channel. And if this is the first time visiting my live, it is basically advertised free during the live. And after that, I add the advertise. Well, I don't add it, but I automatically do the advertisements after this. So if you're seeing us in replay, yes, you'll see some advertisement. Just skip over those. But that's how I basically support this channel. Other ways of supporting my channel as just a throw out. There's a shop list underneath, shop shelf with with particular t-shirts, coffee cups, and so forth. Every little bit helps my particular channel. So that is an opportunity to support my channel and also get something. I'm not the kind of person that's going to be like, just give me money because, although that may be great, I'd rather have basically back and forth. Although if you do find some information very valuable and saves you time and money, hey, what the heck? We're all here just to do what we do. But enough with that. I have a couple of things I'm going to talk about today. A little bit of tech piece. Starting off, I don't have a bike in front of me, but I do have some chains, Connex chains specifically, and I do some waxing on that. So if you're joining in, thanks for tuning in, and we're going to talk about wax chains and my latest basic colossal F up. Yeah, it was a new one on me, and after the fact and gone down the rabbit hole. Hopefully you'll take this information and realize like, oh, don't do that. Light and polite is the name of the game in a lot of things, and I should have paid a little more attention to that. But in any case, we'll be talking about the Connex chains and also the waxing of those. And in addition to, we're going to jump into, what was the other topic? Yeah, besides chains, there was something else. Anyway, I'll come to that in a minute. But anyway, it is live. Go ahead and throw some stuff in the chat. Thank you for joining me. We'll wait till a couple more people join in and talk about this. But it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's the 1st of April. A lot of us are really in anticipation of getting into the cycling season, riding for the riders, better weather, less clothing we have to wear. Paths are a little bit easier to access or cleaner for off-road riding, that kind of thing, which is great. Springtime is in a shop where a lot of planning in the winter starts to go into effect, and that's where we really hope to see some fruit of our labors of preparing for the season. And we're in one hell of a bizarro season. There's a lot of different points as the topic that we talked about on Sunday and as a couple weeks ago. Since this last Shop Talk Tuesday, I went to Cabda. Man, it feels like a month ago because it's been a whirlwind. I'm back home in sunny Colorado and back in the shop doing my thing. And the Cabda show, bike show, if you don't know, it's a bike show. They have 3 of them throughout the United States. The West is in Las Vegas. Fortunate for me, we have a condo there. Therefore, I was able to book in it with a spring break trip and kind of just hanged out in Vegas way too long than I should have or could or whatever. Yeah, 9 days in Vegas is a lot. Even if you have your own place. So to those who live there, that's one thing. But the rest of us, woo, yeah. I did have a lot of fun. There's a lot of takeaways from the actual show itself. I'll be talking about that on the second segment of this. But yeah, kind of crazy. Randy, thank you for joining us. Let's do this. Oh, I'm not a boss. I'm just a bike mechanic that wants to make some love to bikes or give some love to bikes. Then they come out right. Sorry. And Joe, I hope it's warming up in your neck of the woods. Things are thawing out, I bet. Greetings from the Great White North, Canada. Oh, man. You're still getting some snow. Well, yeah. Technically, Colorado, a little bit of science, weather, statistics, are most from the Front Range area, also in the mountains, the most snow-packed levels increase are usually in March, and April is the second snowiest month in Colorado. So don't, if you're visiting Colorado and you're like, oh, it's going to be all nice and beautiful. In April, you can have a good foot of snow, but that is not the current trend models, according to my wife, which is an atmospheric scientist, and that's her particular forte is drought and snowpack and all that. So I get to hear the whole insights of that. Does not make me an expert. She is the expert, but I hear a lot of other experts, so I'm a pseudo expert-ish person. In any case, how that reflects to our actual trend of business, well, there's a huge impact, and having a colder than average spring could really muffle our efforts, like I mentioned before, going into spring, from riding to doing mechanics, doing events, repairs coming in, all those things. So it's a crazy hot mess if it's a really cold spring. But in any case, we had a little bit cooler trend here, and but last week it was like in the 80s, and I haven't looked at what it's then going to be. I just tried to drive back home we drove. So I drove back on Friday in anticipation of trying to miss the storms that are hitting the mountains, because I have to go through the Rockies to get back home. And traveling is a quirky thing when you're driving, and you want to make sure you're not stuck on the I-70 corridor with the ski traffic on the weekend. So we tried to bust it out, got here late Friday, so had a couple days of kind of recovering, and I still feel sluggish, but if anybody has kids and goes on vacation with their kids, it's usually not a relaxing vacation. So I'm not charged, but I'm charged up, but I'm not charged, because there are a lot of things that it was very interesting about the show and other things that have occurred since then, and here we are. So thank you for hanging out. So I do have a couple. Hey, Joe and Randy, you guys are pretty much regulars. So the question is I got it for you, is I use a service called StreamYard, and I'm using the free version because I'm a broke mechanic. But they do have a paid version it'd be basically for the live streams or doing kind of like it's like you can do Zoom videos and that kind of thing. But in any case, the question I have is the video quality good enough for live? Are you guys mostly just listening in and not really visually watching, which is fine, I'll keep it? Or is it something that for detailed higher like HD or 4K, there's two different packages I would have to pay up for that. Would it be worth it for you to be able to see things more clearly? I know hearing is pretty fine, so if you're just listening to this on the podcast version, and anybody else can chime in, even if it's on replay, please chime in the comments below. This is a community that I'm trying to build here between bike shop people, former bike shop people, and people that are just avid cyclists, have been in the industry for a long time, or if you're just new, welcome. But I'm just kind of a quick verbal survey. I'll do another one later, but those don't usually get out too broad of a people, I noticed, through the whatever post that they have through YouTube. So I wanted to see if it'd be worth it to pony up maybe in the next month or two when I can scroll some money from labor to put towards a little higher quality video version of live stream, and when I do more interviews like with Bradley and other people in the industry, would that be a benefit, or is it just something that you guys listen to and it's like, hey, save your money, no worries? So just a side note on that, please chime in. But yeah, if it's good, it's like SD quality. I'm no expert. I know people in the expert, and they tell me, my buddy Jack, he, whatever, he does my front end of my website and all that, but just wanted to see, save my $44 or $88 a month and call it good, and just go with some flow, which is great. I just wanted to throw that out there. All right, sounds good. So keep it cheap. Because us people in any kind of retail industry, or especially bike industry, we love spending money on tools and sometimes inventory. When half of my business is switched over towards more of the social media portion of it, then I'm paying for a lot more. Also general business, you're paying like MailChimp for your email list, you got your website costs for hosting, the laundry list goes on and on and on. And then you have these like, I have a Calendly for all of my this is appointment-based business, so therefore I have a system for that or an application for that, various other things. So it's a laundry list. I just want to try to keep it short. Although, if it's worth paying, I don't mind paying. It's just, is it really worth it? That's kind of thing. Any case, I know they had a Black Friday sale last year, so maybe I'll just wait till they have that sale and then jump on the bandwagon then and see. Any case. All right. Randy, looks good, sounds good. Keep it cheap. All right, sounds good. For the type of videos you're doing, I think the video quality is fine. Thank you, Joe. If it takes off a little bit more, obviously I'll pay into it. I mean, no worries. But as it sits, if you guys are seeing enough, quality enough, it's fine. I'm fine. Everybody's fine. So that leads into my long weeks. I spent 2 of the lives in Vegas, so it was an hour early there for me, which wasn't too bad. I was already up. I'm an early bird anyway, but a little bit nicer to have a little more prep time back home here to do my thing. And yes, the week of vacation with my family was fun. We had a good time, and then booked in by painting the condo. So I put a little sweat equity into our condo, make it a little bit nicer for us. And after that, we had the bike show. And the bike show for Cabda is 2 days long. And I'll go in a lot more detail about them, but just give you a gist of what my last couple of weeks were going through that, which was great. The show's fine, location's nice, easy to get to, free parking, free entry as a bike shop. They had a nighttime event, which was open bar, which that destroyed us because we have no control when it comes to free booze as bike people. And then we're seeing a storm coming up. I had to we were thinking about staying a day or two later than we anticipated, leaving earlier because of the weather coming in, wanted to get home because obviously. So that all being said, and kind of wrecked through the weekend, I had several orders, which was very awesome because, being out of the shop for 2 weeks, posting like nothing's going to ship out until like April. I was being conservative on that just in case. And I got stuff shipped out yesterday and sold 3 bike frames, a few chains, and some parts. So that helps me is nice to be able to take some time off, especially 2 weeks, which I was kind of concerning, but it's only me. I have nobody else covering anything else. So with that 2 weeks, I was able to generate still some more income to help things come along, and I have repairs lined up for this week and going forward. So business as usual. And thank you, customers that have purchased and taken care of a little guy like me doing my thing. So it was awesome. But in the interim, yeah, it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, talking about broke things. Okay, so if you're watching my channel at all, you'll notice there was a video that came up, I think it was last week, about ultrasonic cleaners. And I got a brand new ultrasonic cleaner from VEVOR. It was kind of, they sent it to me to do a video on it, so they paid me by product, but not by paying me. So that's another, that's the other topic I was going to talk about. In any case, we'll go about how YouTube or bike shops can use affiliate sales to leverage. But that's going to be another piece here. But anyway, I got one of those, and I've done a couple of products from VEVOR, and I've used VEVOR products prior to them reaching out and giving me any stuff, which is cool, which is awesome. And this ultrasonic cleaner, they give me a list of which ones. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask for the nicest one they have, just because, right? They ask, and then I tell, and they sent me. I was like, okay, cool. Along with a whole laundry list of other things that I wanted to improve my shop, like flooring and all this. But in any case, that's what they gave me, and I did a little test run on it, showed some stuff, and right off the bat, I noticed for my current one I have right now, it stripped the stuff off like quick, lickety-split. Awesome. And I don't know if it's because it's new, kind of like when you get a new vacuum cleaner, it just sucks better. But this one just blows off grease like no other, and you got to be careful with that because it'll take off finishes and so forth, right? And that's with all ultrasonic cleaners. So there's that, the cautionary tale of tales. And coming back from my trip, I was half-assed, not thinking about things. And lo and behold, I had some chains I needed to wax. And my waxing process, if you don't know about waxing process of chains, you got to strip all the old stuff off before you put the new wax on it, even if it's new, because it has a packing grease on there, and it's not really a great lube anyway. It's just preventing the chain from rusting. Hint, here comes the story. That packing grease prevents rusting for shipping, therefore it works okay. But any kind of drip lube you have on there afterwards, either it's oil-based or wax, it needs to, usually you want to have that stripped off to do that. So this is the tech portion of my segment, talking about ConX chains, and we're going to talk about waxing. And here we go. Forbidden Colossus, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for, this is, you know, interactive, so we go down rabbit holes all the time. So here we go. So waxing chains, not new to the industry. There have been candle waxing chains since the turn of the century during the turn of France. It's just been revamped the last few years from a company mainly from Silka and also Black, really kind of forging the process of being back into the forefront. And then the last tours or whatever, Silka's like, oh, water, space, and so forth. Okay, let's take all the racer and high performance portion of it out of the equation. What's it really good for the rest of the common individuals that are riding bikes? It's not freaking messy. That's, I mean, the process of doing it is, but on your bike, it is not. And what it does do, it saves your componentry for wearing out a little bit faster. It is not a sticky mess. You don't have those chain ring marks, black on your leg when you go for a ride, unless you like that thing, kind of thing. And it's easier to maintain, and it protects those cassettes and jockey pulleys and crank sets from wearing out a little faster. Yes, it is a process, but once you get into that process, it actually makes more sense. And since they do make a liquid version of this stuff, Silka makes this guy right here. It's a liquid, it's basically the same thing, just emulsified with water, I think they said, like 10%. So you can actually just do the drip version to refresh that chain once it's waxed. Or you can technically do the process of that, of just stripping the chain and just dripping this on after it's completely dried. And then you just do that process of dripping on the links a couple times. I got a couple of videos in my library about that, so you can divulge into that. I won't go any more than that. But for me, I've been selling some wax chains, become a little more steam behind it. And here's a little sample. You probably can't see very well, but it does make the chain pretty stiff right out of the gate because it's wax, right? So you need to go through a process of kind of shedding that. I use an old school, old concept chain cleaner, but this has never been used with anything else other than, this was brand new, then I just started using wax. I pull the wax chain through here with the chains that I sell. Or prep to be put on for service. And that helps, breaks down the chain that's sort of more pliable. So when you go on that first test ride, it's going to still act properly, and it's going to shift. But you still want to take that first 5 miles or so light and polite for that chain to kind of shed the rest of it and break in. And when that chain flecks all those flakes off, it becomes like super smooth and super quiet. It's like really nice. Plus you don't have any stuff on you. Now the chain packing greases on most Shimano, SRAM, Connex, whatever brand, KMC, they will have that shipping grease on there, which is okay lube, but a lot of times it's sticky, has a tack to it, so it's going to attract a whole bunch of crap. So the performance of the chain is going to be lessened with attraction of those dirt. So if you have a wax chain that's right new, good to go. I'm not the only one that's waxing chains and selling them. There's also Vital, I'll put the link in below, Vital Chains. That guy's a follower of mine. He watches my videos. He made even a mock video of mine, which is kind of funny. But that's all he does is wax chains. He does the KMCs, SRAMs, and Shimanos. I'm kind of just been going towards more of the ConX because it's a little bit higher grade of a chain. So we'll talk about the ConX chain. It's a German chain brand. It's not really seen in a lot of OEM bikes, therefore it's an upgraded chain after the fact. So when you get a new chain on your bike, or if you're doing a pro build or just regular build, or need a new chain, a ConX is a good way to go. Not necessarily all just because of the precision of German steel and all that stuff, because that has a really good high following for that. But what ConX has is what they call that. It's a Connect link from ConX, or a ConX link. And here's the one it is a pre-waxed. I already waxed it. Actually, this one was returned. The guy decided he wanted to go with a 11 speed versus a 10 speed, so he sent me back the 10 speed. So the chain looks like this. It's already been waxed, and if you can see the little droplets still kind of form. I did shed it already with the chain tool. But what's really cool about these, and this is a really big selling point for novice or mechanics alike, is their ConX link. Got to be careful and not say quick link or speed link or whatever link you want to call it. It's number one, it's reusable. Shimano and SRAM say theirs is not reusable, although all of us mechanics have reused them and they're just fine. And I've had chains fail at other parts except for the actual quick link or whatever link it is. They're trying to cover their butt just because they don't have that much confidence in their link. And number two, they want to sell more quick links, because Shimano back in the day, if you don't know, they used to hyperglide pins, which is basically a replacement pin. It looked like a bolt and push through. Costs us like $1 or $2 per pin. I mean, that little tin of 50 of them was like, $50 or whatever, and you lose that thing. And there were size specific, like the quick links or whatever links or ConX links. They're like 8 speed or 9 speed, 10 speed, 11 or 12. Same thing for the pins. And sometimes they would booger up and go in wrong and whatever. It was total colossal pain in the ass. So when it comes to these the removable link systems, it have been a game changer, and SRAM kind of led that, or was more popular at the time of the early 2000s. Well, anyway, back to the ConX one. It's reusable. It is branded and advertised reusable. You can go to the ConX website and it'll tell you, yes, it's reusable, and you can just buy that. And it's also compatible with Shimano and SRAM. So don't buy the Shimano and SRAM link, just get the ConX link and switch out, because SRAM and Shimano sell their links, power link from like this, and they're $3 to $5 per whatever. You can do the ConX. The second thing about the ConX chain, besides being German steel and reusable, is you don't need a tool. Basically, these are tool-free links. So for the ease of, this will be a little bit harder to do because it has a little bit of wax buildup. But see, it opens and closes, it gets off, it comes off without any tools. So you don't have to have the more popular tool like this. But you'll still need a chain tool to size it, to make sure it's the right size. Match it up with your current, or if you're doing that adjustment, look up videos there to size your chain. So you'll need a chain that pushes the pin through to the correct length. That's another part I want to talk about too, is length on chains. A lot of them, well, this one's a 118, they count links, right? So this one's 114 links. So if you get a chain, and most of the, 114, 118 fits most bikes, but what if you got like one of those townies or a cruiser style or something with a longer drivetrain? Then you're going to need a longer chain. Some people splice two chains together to get that length. ConX has, not all their models, but they do have, and some, as well as Shimano and SRAM, I think, they have like the same model chain but a longer length. And I noticed on the ConX they have 3 on some models, something within each one of the speeds, like an 8 speed or 9 speed, 10 speed. They'll have one of the models, they'll have 3 different lengths. So if you have like one of those bikes, and I had a customer read, why I'm getting into this, so I had a customer reach out and was like, oh, I want to get into wax chains and so forth, but I need 130 links. And should I just buy 2 chains? And I'm like, hold on, let me get back to you. Not that something I would stock regularly, but I did, and what I got is they have 138 12-speed chain, had 138 links, and it's only the SO or S0 model. But I mean, for the guy, it'd be a great fit. Then you can just cut off 8 links for his size, so you don't have to double up and pay twice as much for two wax chains. So that being said, they're lewd at me getting those chains. So I got those chains right before I left, so I didn't get a chance to wax them. So I'm like, oh, okay, I got to wax some chains. I got some up for sale and so forth. So I throw these bad boys, 138 link chains, in the ultrasonic cleaner. And I was just thinking my own typical process, put them in straight simple green for like 5-minute cycles for 15, then I flush it out, then I put them in rubbing alcohol for 5 minutes for 5 minutes for 15 minutes. So it's roughly 30 minutes in different solutions to clean the chain off, and then rinse off water and let it dry. So I did that, and I'm doing all other things before. So I'm like going through my little rigmarole, not realizing the ultrasonic cleaner that I have is new, and it blew dirt off like a third of the time. Needless to say, when they dried, they left rust deposits on them. In other words, I went too far. Because it took the pins, which are steel, and it had nickel plating, and like, I got rust deposits on the chain. It's like, okay, rust is not good at all. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can recover by just putting in vinegar and run through the process on that and kind of shed it. That worked to some level. It took most of, if not all, the rust off, which was great. Then I dipped them in wax. Then it discolored the chain because I didn't rinse off the vinegar. The vinegar altered the nickel plating to a different color. Then I went down this rabbit hole trying to clean all, oh man. Before you know it, I destroyed 2 chains, which are my costs around $60 each, and they are coated with rust and toast. I tried to re-wax it, see if it would do that, and basically I had to flush my old wax out because I had contaminant wax in there, or rust in there, whole 9 yards. So the cautionary tale is when you're waxing chains, do a little test first on new chain, like maybe some old clippings or whatever, and see how much that manufacturer crease come out. I've been doing it for a couple of years, so I had the process down. And then after that, I did kind of went light and polite and double checked it, and I figured it was half the cycle. So it's half the time, but I destroyed 2 chains. So therefore, the time savings is basically the cost of the 2 chains anyway. Any case, I have to order another set of chains for this guy and then wax them appropriately. So there's the cautionary tale of mechanicking, because sometimes even with the best experience or the most longest experience, you come across tobacco's like that, and we're all human, right? But in any case, it was a learning experience, and I did see how long it does take to destroy a ConX German-made chain. Yeah, in any case. So there lies, it's supposed to be shiny like this. This is pretty much the same chain, just a shorter, different speed, but that's what it's supposed to look like. And that's what I did to it. Any case, yeah, learnings and learnings. But in any case, yes. So, a small price. I mean, there's mistakes, and you write them off, right? Like, oops, oopsies, destroy chain, whatever. You go from there. But the benefit of it, I mean, that's where, if you feel confident and you clean parts yourself at home, you have an ultrasonic cleaner, and you don't have to use the ultrasonic cleaner. There's a process through. There's also a video of it too. There's they call it chain stripper from Silka, and it's a liquid version. You can put the chain in there, and that kind of makes that all go away. Ever since then, though, there's also what they call from Silka strip chip that actually is additive that goes into the wax that helps that, so you don't have to clean the chain at all. So you at home, a novice, or just don't want to deal with a whole bunch of mess, but you still want wax change, that strip chip is the process to go. It is a little bit extra expense, but you don't have to buy the ultrasonic. If you have one already, yeah, you go down the route. But you don't. If you don't, that's a good way of doing it. Then you just get one little cooker. You put the strip chip in there with your wax a few chains, call it good. And that's pretty much for most individuals that are waxing their own chains on a few bikes. That's the process to go. If you're doing mass chains or quantities like myself for service or what have you, you have to go through that cleaning process. So cautionary tale, be careful of cleaning those. Also, if you have a chain that has coating on it, which I'm very reluctant to put this in the ultrasonic cleaner because it's black with cool gold. So I might just do the stripper on that instead, because I don't want to damage the plating, the coloring plating of the black on this one and still wax it. So that's another thing you got to play with. So how popular is this wax chain becoming? Well, Silka is selling their own chains that are pre-waxed. Vital Chains in, I forget, is it Florida? He has a whole plethora of chains. And quite honestly, they're not that much more expensive than the chain. You're talking about like maybe like 20 bucks is the markup on them or ish. That is actually not a bad lift considering you don't have to do any of this crap. And if you want to refresh it yourself, it's just basically redunking it. You don't have to do any cleaning process once the chain is waxed. It's just a refresher or you use the drip. So after it's been waxed, the process of re-waxing and reusing that chain is pretty darn easy. So you have those going there. But with ConX, they are starting to make chains with their own formula, which I haven't researched yet, but they have their own wax, their own drip wax as well. And they are pre-waxing I'm not sure about their 10 speeds, but they're 11 and 12 speeds that they have a model that is pre-waxed. So, but if you want like a higher end chain or an 8 or 9 or 10 speed chain, you need to re-wax those yourself. But that's kind of a testimonial there that actual chain company is now providing a wax pre from the actual chain manufacturer themselves. So there lies the thing of the things. 32 watching. Oh, I got 32 watching. 8 likes. Oh, I'm getting more popular. Thanks for chiming in. If you're just joining me here, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. Thank you for hanging out with me in the garage. This is my shop. I am really in our two-car garage bump out, and I made a shop out of it. Basically, it was a business that started off by refurbishing bikes, and I've been in the cycling industry for a super long time, 35 years. So I found my sweet spot of just doing my thing at home out of my garage. Yes, I'm very fortunate because my significant other has the big job. So therefore, it allows me to do this and build a community within the cycling world without having to rely. I mean, I still have to make an income, but it is not a sole income. So things are great. This makes it a little more of a happier place for me, and things are good. Doug, thank you for joining. Oh, okay. So you got tired of using the single speed chains from SRAM and switched to the Uzi SS. I'm not familiar with the Uzi. I mean, there's a lot of different chain companies out there. In any case, whew. All right. 35 years. Yeah, Tim, get your little shot glass out. Well, it may be early in your neck of the woods. If it's later, Tim and I actually bought a couple bikes from me, and I hope they're riding great for him. Or I think he sold one. I don't know. He's rotating. Like a lot of the cyclists are like, ooh, I like this one. Ride it for a while. I'm like, I like something better. So I sell that and get something else. So he's one of those, and he has a joke that every time I say Parker Bikes, which is my affiliate, and also my year's experience. Because, Tim, I have to tell that all to the newbies because they may not know. I've been in a bike shop and I came from a family bike shop, and I've been doing this for 35 years. So you kind of have to throw it down. But I'll try not to repeat myself too much. All right, Steve, thank you for joining. Awesome. Solar with Uzi chains. I have to look that up. Is it Uzi or Uzi? Uzi? I don't know how you say it. I'm going to butcher it for sure. Oh, thanks for joining us from Steve. Thanks for joining us from the UK. Hopefully it's beautiful in your neck of the woods. I mean, it's kind of like, what we can, in the States we consider Seattle weather. In any case. Mafia, thanks for joining in. Checking in. Thanks. So yes, I just finished up a little bit about Connex chains and so forth. There's a link below to my website to see the chains I have for sale between Connex and a few cerams. I'm kind of filtering out the cerams. Mainly I got them just for my service work, but I went a little bit heavy on the Connex because I knew it's a little bit better quality of a chain, and with that link that you can reuse and tool free, it's something be working for going towards into the season. So I did a little bit of investment there. Typically I wouldn't do that, but I figured I can filter in with my service work as well. As if you're a shop owner, you're working in a shop. I was talking to a shop yesterday, and I'll go into that a bit, but it's one of those things like the perceived idea of wax chains is for the elite riders, racers, and that. Now, quite honestly, it is not. It's for every cyclist out there that doesn't want to mess, and something that's going to help their train last a bit longer. The best application I could probably see with it is e-bikes, because you look at e-bikes have a lot more torque on the drivetrain, and it might help slow down the wear and tear. Granted, the people that get e-bikes have not been riding for a while, don't shift or not in the habit of shifting, so therefore they burn out those one or two cogs in their chain. If you're an avid cyclist that's got into e-bikes, you're going to still have inherent knee jerk, or just basically you will be shifting in addition to using the e-assist, therefore distributing that wear and tear. Connex does make e-bike specific chains as well, so that's another thing to keep in mind. I don't have anything in my library for a pre-wax. That might be a direction I would go. I'm going to talk to Josh at Precision e-bike in Fort Collins here a little more about that. Maybe he and I can buy into a couple of them and wax them and kind of see how they hold up as kind of like a test and see if it really is a good application. That guy, he's been in the e-bike realm for a long time, a good 20 plus years, and he has a shop in Foco where he does conversions and fixes them and that kind of thing. I do have an interview in my library, so if you want to check that out, him and his shop, yeah, please do so. That's pretty cool. He'll probably jump in on the chat when he has time here. He's more than welcome. He's more than happy to. Oh, there he is. Reach out to him if you have any major e-bike questions, because he is the guy. Sorry I didn't get to see you there. I heard you were there. Talked to some people at Cabda West. My schedule was a hot mess, and anyway, unfortunately, I just didn't was able to connect with as many people as I thought. I'm sure you were busy too, so we were there doing our game and our thing. So, but we can do an interview, or we can do a talk later and talk about what we feel. But it was a fun experience. It's been a while since I've been to a bike show, for sure. Oh, you think about doing for the mid-drive? Maybe for wax chains. Whatever the research I've seen out there so far on wax chains, I think would be a great application to it. But hey, we want to try that first and see before us mechanics get behind it and go, yeah, this is the way to go. We don't want anybody destroying their overly, pretty expensive drivetrain bikes with e-bikes is specifically good expensive. Run a 1.3? Okay. Well, if anything, it makes it cleaner, right? The wax chains are just, it's cleaner on you. And if you do the drip wax, it's less messy, I guess. I mean, you want to do it outside or in your garage because it will drip and kind of, with any kind of like reapplication of lube on your drivetrain. Don't do it on your significant other's white carpet. I mean, don't do that. Or any mechanics on the white carpet. But anyway, the Connex has been turned on to it by Bradley. I knew of him before that, but John Bradley's been in the industry for a long time. I have a few interviews with him, and he swears by him. And I did a couple of his chains, and he seems to be doing really good, and it's holding up for him. that kind of thing. Ah, fiber grip, anti-lock. Yeah, solar, great point. Fiber grip is another technical thing. Anti-seize has been around for a long time. We've been using that for bottom brackets to keep stuff from creaking. There used to be a stuff called tie prep, and it was basically a prep that you put on titanium bolts. It's like an anti-seize. You can still use anti-seize, but it kept when you have different metal materials like aluminum against titanium, we would find a creaking, ticking sound that would drive everybody crazy. It's just basically a thing that works really well. Oh yeah, it's not a petroleum-based type thing when you're using anti-seize and all that. You got to worry about with fiber grip though. I found if it's not carbon on carbon, if it's like a carbon on aluminum, it can kind of make things kind of sticky. I think that's what I've heard. But prove me. Let me know if I'm wrong. I was just kind of a cautionary tale from a bike shop I was in, talking about a seized seat post on a. What trek is that? Speed Concept trek that I have. I was going to mess with. Maybe I'll pull that down for our next week's show. And it has a seat post in there. And I have a tool from old days. I think it'll work on there and see if we can pull that thing out. It's toast anyway, so I can't really damage it even more than it already is. So, hey, it'd be something fun to do in a live any case. So, there lies the cautionary tale of try not to ultrasonic clean the hell out of your parts to the point. I knew it kind of will take finishing off. It took off the nickel plating, but also took off any kind of protective rust prevention, and then it rusted like no other, like it's been outside for months and weeks on end. But in any case, that's what we got on there, cautionary tale. Oh, there was something else. Oh, let me double check. That's probably in the description that I put in. So hope everybody's having a good week so far. Everything is doing pretty good here. Like I mentioned before, the coming home with actual sales was great. It was actually awesome. I mean, any sales could be awesome, or any sales are awesome. Every customer at this point is. Yeah, let's just dive into the whole topic of the topic, right? That's what I got listed here, right? Is talk about the chains, my total buffa on that, and we have talking about bicycle retailer, the latest articles, and then lastly, I want to talk about the brand deals that a shop like mine on YouTube is kind of affiliating with, and we'll just give you a little bit of insights on that. So. The biggest hot topic is a store that's kind of like a punk rock kind of thing, been around for decades. It's all kind of weird. Don't let your kids go in there. It'd be a weird experience for everybody. Let's just put it that way. Oh, that's a good idea. Put a fiber grip on lock grips. Never thought about that. All right, yeah. Oh, so I got Lou that's coming in, and hopefully he'll still be here next week, so I'll definitely feature that. Farlight is a frame bike builder, small gravel road group out of England, I think, or in Europe. Customer line, Kevin. I featured his tumbleweed, so there's a video on that in my library. He bought a Farlight and he's scrolled up all the parts to put it together, and he'll be dropping off this week for me to video it and put it together for him and do my magic ceramic coating of the frame, all that good stuff, and have it fine-tuned and fitted to him. So we'll go through that whole process. So that's one of the cool feature bikes I'm going to be featuring this week. Videos will follow after that when I have time to build that up at Farlight. It was turned on to Bradley again. Was one of those like, oh, I have a sweet spot for one of those. I want to get one of those, and we'll do a feature list. And his buddy was listening in and was like, oh, I want one of those. So he got one of those, and we'll do a whole check out sniff test and check it all out. That's great. B, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the live stream. Rim brake, Fran, and only for new age stuff. You know, B, for rim brakes, I am. For road, I mean, disc brakes, they have their place, but they're for hydraulic. They're added lift for maintenance for customers. It's not easy for customers to work on them. Therefore, they have to kind of pigeonhole to go to a bike shop. The cable actuated version of them, it's just like regular brakes. It's just a different kind of learning techniques and so forth. You can get some of the cable actuated ones to work pretty well to accommodate, to give you the idea of accommodating a wider tire. Disc brakes came out in the 90s, and I think Hayes and Magura were the first ones, I believe, that come out with it, and they were primarily just mountain bike, and the mountain bike purpose behind it is be able to brake under really shitty conditions. That's what the real purpose was initially when they came out. Not necessarily for tire width and all that. That really came down later, but that's where they initially came from. And when they started putting them on road bikes, I can kind of understand the concept of controlling your wheel speeds if you're going extremely fast. A fat guy like me does not want to go fast because I just see myself, life flashing in front of my eyes. So when I hit anything over 30, I'm like tweaked out. So I'm not going that fast. But those who do like to go extremely fast on descents and in kind of conditions on a road, you can see the benefits. Cyclocross, shitty conditions again, or gravel, same thing, kind of that realm. But for recreational riding and so forth, if you get a caliper brake to work, and they work well and they're easy to work on, and especially for people to take brake pads off and so forth. So I'm on the fence for both, and I think if I'm more of a component if it's correct for what it's the use of versus just putting them on everything. Do I believe that Shimano and SRAM should have upper level road componentry that is still cable actuated? Absolutely. But that's the kind of the pigeonhole the industry kind of leads, and that's where led to the whole topic that we talked about last. Like, why are you driving the narrative of something where not everybody wants? So therefore, they put themselves in a bad position. All right. Yeah. So I mean, there's good brands out there. You can get, you know, with compressionless brake housing now, you can get a cable actuated disc system to work a lot better, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to a lot of that, for sure. So yeah, we can, you know, that's still a huge debate. I mean, you guys can go chat like all day long on, I love disc brakes, I hate disc brakes, I want cantilevers, bring back the, I think you just have option for both, especially with used and also new, especially in the, you know, you just can't stop making stuff because the model years, and that's where we're starting to see that. Like, we're seeing some componentry like from one of the parts vendors here in the States. QBP is starting to cut off parts that are for 8 or 9 speed systems and stuff like that, like wheels and so forth. So that's where like J&B Importers is kind of going to pick up that. They're still making the stuff. It's just, you know, less venues, if you will, of getting those particular older parts. But luckily for us, if anybody knows how to use the eBay account and look for a parts flipper that cleans up parts, which I have some stuff up there too, and I didn't say anything bad about that, but they're providing actually a wholesale on used or a surplus of used parts that have been refurbished mostly and can be used, so you can match your vintage stuff, like, you know, the Ultrasonic stuff that's a 9-speed. You can find shifters and derailleurs and you know, wheels that work with that without, I mean, having to go new. Because unfortunately, a bike shop, and all you bike shop people out there are watching this, know that most of the shop's Kool-Aid is basically you just go through the QBP or J&B and that's it, as in part suppliers. And if you can't find anything there to fix that older bike, that is your limitations. You just stop there, and that's been the case. And there's nothing bad about that in a sense, but there's an opportunity for shops if they want to step a little bit further into customer service and go, hey, I found that Ultegra 9-speed long cage derailleur on eBay for X price. Our markup of bringing it in is this, and see if the customer wants to go forward with that. It may take a few more days to get that repair done, but they might match up the exact same part. That's all up on the shop themselves if they want to go down that road. But that's something to think about, as in we're going into a very heavy oriented culture with independent bike shops for at least next few years, because new bike sales are basically shit right now, and the margins on them are even worse, and they're not going to get any better. That is not a growing piece of the bike shop market. The market that's going to grow and actually sustain is the service departments is going to have to carry a lot of shops in addition to used bikes and used parts. So if you get yourself in a habit and your team in a habit of doing that, also if you go into a shop and you ask them if they can do stuff like that, that might help them become more service community oriented versus this is the way we always done it and that's always how we're going to do it from here, which is, I'm sorry, right now we're in such a weird time that whatever the old rule books were, they just need to be thrown in the fire, because we're in a whole different scenario of weirdness, and we need to all figure out how to navigate through that. People are still going to ride their bikes. There's some markets that are still kind of exploding. E-bikes and gravel are still pretty prominent. There's opportunities for bikes to do a lot of different, bike shops to do a lot of different things, but there's still people doing rides. They're going to ride more. They may Oh, sorry, something happened. So getting back on my soapbox, the current state is all kind of weird. So yeah, we need to be a little more open-minded of things that we've used to do, and just now we need to try different things and see, basically help the customer's experience and cycling experience to keep them on their bikes that they currently want to keep, especially if it's older, or they take advantage of the used market and find something nice and used and going from that direction for sure. Absolutely. All right, let me refresh here. Question great. Yeah, is. Oh, thank you for joining in. Some Subversives of Cycling Company. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I've played with the compression housing on brakes. It seems to be pretty good, just for fun. Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy. Crazy is an understatement. Let's just put it that way. Those who have been in the cycling industry for more than 5 years, this is not the norm. Let's just say that. This is not normal at all. And yeah. And a lot of us are just scratching our head. And what we've seen so far the last couple of years from the downfall of the peak is now service, because people are still riding their bikes, and actually more people are on bikes still. Hopefully we retain that from the big spike. And then there's a lot of community rides like bike to work or local group rides or clubs, shop rides, and also charity rides. So all those things could be leveraged, and in a sense that could be used in the bike shop to help promote their shop, saying, hey, we're here to help you, doing service and so forth. That's a great opportunity of showing up those events. But unfortunately with bike shops, it's usually at the height of the season where they're usually up to their neck in repairs and no time to spare. But honestly, I implore all of you shop owners to at least try to get out there, do at least one a month or every other month of an event. Take that one weekend day or wherever that you can and be a part of that. Reason being, you'll bring in first you're helping your cycling community. That's the first and foremost, more important thing. But on the flip side, that gives awareness of you and your niche and what you do. Does it resonate with everybody? No, but you're out there and supporting it. I can't tell you how many years I've done the MS 150, and it's at the end of June, height of the time, like every year. And I come away walking from that a better person and mechanic and shop owner because I see the outcome of all the efforts of what we do as a community. I mean, they're out there, they're riding, they're going to, they're doing this event, they're trying to support a disease, they're trying to, it's just like, it makes you, it's such a touching thing. And puts you back at being a human and not just a business owner or a bike mechanic. It puts, it pulls the humanity out of you and go, oh, this is why I've been doing this for all these years, that kind of thing. So it's not just you're looking for the return of customers coming in your store. It makes you a better person, better mechanic, a better shop, a better for your community. I can't say that more enough. And I do have a little story about that, a little cut to sit down about that. So excuse my rearrangement. I'm going to go sit my butt down and go over some bicycle retailer articles that we have over here. And I thought I had a little short. Let me see if I can do something a little fun here while I'm see if this will play. Oh, okay, there we go. So while I'm rearranging, you can watch me take apart a light speed that I worked on for Redshift. Put on Redshift on it, that was pretty cool. That was a lot of fun. Bars, stem, seat post, all those good things. And the gentleman that owns the bike, he's taking it for a couple rides, and he is enjoying it, loving it, and that's what you want, right? Out of all the things of the things. So, in any case, that's what we're doing with there. All right, yeah, this is working out pretty good. So yeah, taking apart that bike, put it all together. I vetted out. It came with 9-speed Ultegra. I was able to find a whole used kit of 10-speed, so you can upgrade to the 10-speed triple. And with Ultegra wheel set, I mean, the bike turned out to be super cherry, so that was a pretty sweet thing for sure. All right, I think I got myself all situated here. Hopefully with enough light and all that. All right, well, we'll pause this and just go back to me. Oh, hey, look at that. I actually can know how to use buttons. All righty. Oh, B, yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully I clarified that without being too muddled up. Charles, thank you for joining me. Oh, yeah, the MS 150, and it's called Bike MS now. I think they dropped the 150. I keep calling them 150 because I've been saying it for 150, but if it's your neck of the woods, it's Bike MS or MS, Bike MS. They're national. They have rides pretty much in all the states for the most part, and I've been affiliated with them through my family's shop. 37 years now. Holy cow, yeah. So, I mean, through my dad doing the event back in the day to my picking up the reins in 2005, 2006, I've been doing it. And of course, when I was working with my dad at the shop, I was the one left behind at the shop while he did the event. So it's kind of like, yeah, we all did it kind of thing. Oh yeah, around 5,000 riders. That's great. I forget what the totals were here. I don't think there was as much. I think the riders count's been less in the last couple of years. But It's one of those things. It comes and ebb and flows. They changed the route this year for here, so that might be a benefit for them to do that. And the thing is a lot of shops are like, well, it's not going through my town. Why should I bother? Well, actually, it's just your shop awareness. Okay, let's put that in perspective. I'm a guy in the garage in Loveland, Colorado. I have customers that have followed me on YouTube or otherwise, other places, but mostly from YouTube. I've drawn customers to come have me work on their bikes for an hour and a half drive south to the south part of Denver to all the way up into Wyoming. So if you don't know the demographics of where I am, that's about an hour and a half either direction is my range. And people bringing bikes, dropping them off, and let me do my thing, my magic and tune up and all that, and come back a week later or whenever is convenient for them to pick up the bike to be fitted and all that, just because they want me to work on their bike. So for me to do the charity ride that's out of my town is more than fine, which draws more of those customers or what have you. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily always that. It's like I said before, it's building me up to be a better person and a better mechanic and being better in my culture or my community, and then the benefit of getting some sales out of the end of it, that's great. Last year was an awesome year because I had a customer, he came up and he dropped off a Moots for me to work on and a Parlay, which is a nice gravel bike. I mean, this stuff is 10 plus grand new. It's like, I don't usually work on a lot of the high end anymore like that. I mean, I do, the one I'm gonna be doing this week for sure, but yeah, I love working on, stuff like that. And it just, it's like, for me, it's like going to the ice cream store and just trying all the flavors. It was a lot of fun. So in any case, you just never know what's going to come out of it. This is the end of the story on that one. I mean, it's one of those things where it could be really beneficial. And so I want to go into another little story that's kind of related to part of the story of the stories that's been released. Okay, some of you may have watched the video or saw the news about Merida. Merida is a manufacturer in Taiwan, and they build specialized bikes, and they have stake in specialized up to 35%. That used to be a little bit higher, but I think they shrunk down over the last few years, according to the article, right? So according to the article, they're having some troubles and they've had to do a write-off, or this is the time of year apparently they report all their numbers, and last year they took a $1.5 million loss through specialized investment through Merida, and that loss was directed in the article right to the retail stores. That's where their loss was. And my hypothetical thought of like, okay, well, who else owns a whole bunch of bicycle retail stores? Oh, Trek. And they have to be, they're not a for trade company, therefore they're not reporting anything. Still privately owned by John Burke and his family. Therefore, you're not seeing, they're really quiet, but you gotta know if Specialized have that huge of a hit, they got to be just as in the same hot water like the rest of them, as well as Pon owning Mike's Bikes. And I know it sounds like, how do you keep in your head straight about this? Well, they do it on purpose. They don't want you to know it's all corporate stores, in a sense, or they want to have the ability to do diversity, like the InCycle, which is specially owned stores, which they bought the chain originally in California. But in any case, it's brilliant because what they do is, if Specialized is not doing good for them, they want to bring in a different brand in those stores, they can. When you're looking at a Trek concept or Trek corporate owned stores, all they're going to carry is Trek stuff. They're not going to veer off to different brands whatsoever. So they're kind of trying to keep it, and some of their acquisitions, they kept the name of the actual shops too. I think Motion Makers was one, and so forth. But they've all had some shrinks of the stores. And, if you're just joining us, this is Shop Talk Tuesday, and I'm into the industry bit of it and talking about the video. I had a little tech piece, if you want to replay, watch it on wax chains on the ConX brand chain, and also the benefits of the ConX, light and polite touches on those. And one of my biggest faux pas I've done in a while. But in any case, going back to the article and my, week of selling some, or through the 2 weeks I was gone, I sold a couple frames, boxed them up, and had to go drop them off at the UPS store, which is right across the street from End Cycles in Fort Collins, Colorado. That particular location I worked in as when it was lead cyclery, so the footprint is really weird walking in there. It's kind of like going into the same building but with a different clothing. It's dressed up differently. It's just totally bizarre. Kind of just flashbacks of the years I worked there over the last 2 decades. But in any case, when you're looking at the specialized, I poke in there about once or twice a year just to see what's new, what they have out, that kind of thing. If I do talk to one of the people, just to kind of see how they're doing and so forth. It's not like I'm probing Specialized stores and going all in and try to find their faults and all that. It's like, I mean, the corporate stores are mostly upper end. The cheapest road bike on the floor was like $1,200, and they had like one on there. Everything else is on average between $4,000 to $8,000. A couple really cool, pretty paint jobs. Other than that, though, it is like your boutique-y Porsche high-end shop, which would turn away a lot of people. And they know that. I mean, talking to the staff there, it's like, yeah, we know our place. And that's what they do. And they do service, and they've been pretty busy. Well, Specialized is having their kickoff sale right in the spring or something like that. One of those things. So they are probably busy a little bit there, because they say everything's discounted. Sure, there's a lot of discounted, and I didn't really look that deeply at how many of the models were last year's models, whatever. At this point, it doesn't matter, because this year, last year, and the next 2 years, they're not going to be changing any models, not bringing any more tech in, because they're not going to get the benefit on the return, because they did, a couple of the brands release some newer stuff, and the shit flopped. I mean, they didn't get any sales off of it, really. So at this point, they're just going to hold that tech back for another couple of years, because they don't. All they need to do is just repeat and paint and fill at this point, I think, because the sales are just not generating that. Anyway. Oh, terrible tariff day tomorrow. Yeah. I'm just, I don't like to bring politics to this, but fuck. It's just, that's all I gotta say. I mean, yeah, you got some numbers there. It's gonna, I mean, who knows? It's the unknown part of it is so freaking disturbing. Like, I don't know. It's just, and in the state of the state, the cycling industry has been having a couple rough years, and then you have a change of administration, and it's not making it better. And when you have customers worried about their jobs, job security, food inflation, all those things, and you got this going on, it doesn't help. Let's just put it that way. And okay, that goes into the comments of my last video. There's one shop I think in England chimed and said, "Oh, you want to be more positive?" Like, I try to be more positive, but it's hard. And I try to keep a silver lining to it, some piece of it. It may not be the biggest silver lining, but at least some positive. Because the positive is that I see right now, people are on the bike paths. They're riding. They're out there. They need service. So that's something, right? But when you look at people looking from the outside into the States, it may not be in your neck of the woods as troublesome and so forth with the economy. You might be still selling bikes. You may have all that service and positive, but you're hearing these people that are in the States kind of like, what the fuck have we done to ourselves? I mean, that's where it's just, I mean, excuse the language, but it's just gone to that point where, oh my God, like it's just baffling. But in any case, here we are, and I know some of those are outside of our borders are like, oh, it's not too bad or whatever. I know you know, it's like, please don't blame us individuals, because us individuals didn't do this, on purpose to ourselves. It's just, we're just, And what I've seen so far, a lot of it, I mean, we are not being blamed individually, which is great. But the thing is we're all going to have to get through this. That's what the end game is. Like we're all having. How do we? And then it's hard to prepare, and that's another part of it too. Looking at the industry portion of this, and sitting in CABA and talking to vendors, and they're like, and reading everything, and you're like, how do you prepare for something you do not know how to prepare for? Or if you knew exactly what was going to happen, you can prepare for it. But right now, it's just a blanket preparation, raising prices to offset what's going to be affecting our market. That's really what it's come down to. I've heard one of the part suppliers is going to be raising their, right across the board, 10% on all their stuff. I mean, when it comes to chains, cables, and housing and everything, that kills and takes away that margin that shops are needing for those small parts. For example, and if you're not in the industry, you may not understand, but like, okay, you got a tune-up, right? And you got a tune-up, let's say it's a $100 tune-up. And the customer needs a new chain, cassette, and some tires, okay? So the tires costs us, let's just do the Keystone model. It's not that, but let's just use the Keystone model. So you got tires, and you bought tires for $25, and you sell them to the customer for $50. That's what they call Keystone, the double. And that's where those margins that help pay for the lights and your employees and everything, because bike sales are 20 to 30% margins, just as a perspective part. So the accessories is where, and parts is where you try to generate your income. And yes, the customer can probably find that chain cheaper online and what have you, but if the customer's perspective is trying to support the shop, they're going to be okay spending an extra 10 or 15 bucks on a part or something like that. That's a whole different debate, but that's where the bike shop, and also the convenience fee. It's there, they brought it in, they're there to install it, and a lot of times the tune-ups include the labor already, putting on those tubes and tires and chain and cassette and that kind of thing. Okay, let's all that out of the way. You take that repair, it's $100, and you're selling them tires and a chain of cassette, which is probably going to get you in the realm of maybe $200 worth of parts. I mean, let's say, just for giggles, it's 200 parts. You would usually made $100 on that, on top of that. Well, if you take a 10% hit on that, that erodes that $100 now to $90. And then you tack on the cleaning supplies, the tools, the training, the labor to have your staff there, payroll, insurance, light, and all that. That shrinks that number down to holy crap. You're making half of what you were making. So, and then in addition to all the other stuff is costing more as well as employees, because they need to be paid more to be able to afford eggs. So it's this vicious cycle when you look at it. And yes, a lot of people are griping that, bike labor or tune-ups are too expensive and all that. It's like, well, in some cases, yes. Some cases, some shops can kind of leverage and cut down their costs running a business, i.e. me. But, when you're looking at that leveraging piece, and that affects the shops at the front line. Well, what are you talking about? The wholesalers, all of a sudden everything they're getting replacement parts coming in from China, and any other company that's going to be affected by this, that's going to increase their running costs, and in addition to bikes. And, quite honestly, some people out there are like, oh, we need to make bikes in the United States again. That's fine and great and dandy if we want to do that, that's fine, but it shouldn't be forced upon us by the government, right? It should be an opportunity or incentives to do so, a different direction. Not needless to say, the problematic part of this is Trek used to make a good portion of their bikes in the United States, but what they made in the United States, let's break that down, was the frame and some wheels. Everything else, you just can't ride a bike with frame and wheels. You got to have the shifters, the bars, the seat posts, the seats, the tires, all these other bits, chains, cassettes, and everything else. Those are all sold and built overseas. We don't have the infrastructure to build all those parts here in the United States. We can, but the thing is, you know how long it's going to take us to do that? 10 to 20 years to even do that. And will we be able to keep the costs down to compete against, even with tariffs? That's what the big companies are looking at. It's like, there's no way we're going to do that. Even though we're take a little bit of pain now, we can't. It's just impossible to do that. So when you look at the auto industry and they have parts are made in Canada and Mexico that come over, I mean, same kind of a hot mess. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. And e-bikes are the same thing. I mean, we don't have e-bike motor companies here. Maybe we do, but I doubt it. And if you did, are they good? Are they good quality? Are they, that kind of thing? So for me as a consumer, if I'm buying the best price, but I want the best stuff, value. It's a global economy, a global manufacturing, getting the best pieces, and it's been like this for decades. Because Shimano's been making componentry, and the nice end of Shimano always came out of Japan. So, and Campanoli, Italy. I mean, come on. I mean, that's fine. It should be fine. The bike companies, all they distinguish the difference between the different companies is the frame and the geometry. So that's what they build. Everything else is pieced in from everything else. So therefore, we're in a hot mess. And and that's the problem. We don't know how it's going to affect everything. Are cables going to cost more than the chains? I don't know. It's just whatever. This is a mess. Oh, Randy, thanks for chiming in. I have more to do more than Keystone because the freight is crazy high. Yeah, freight is another damn thing that costs money. That leads to my little story about the bike show. Okay, let me finish up with the Specialized story that I went to the store. And I was talking to one of the lads there. He remembered me, and I poke in there a few times. And I'm not sure if he watches my channel or not. If he is, that's great. And we talked about the industry a little bit and about used stuff and so forth. And I was like, "Oh, are you guys doing any kind of charity rides?" And then he said, "Oh yeah, we're doing the MS." I'm like, oh, "Sweet." So even them are reaching out and trying to find more ways to basically build their culture. And again, the MS ride is not going through any of their towns, but they're going to take 2 days and take care of a couple stops for the MS ride, Bike MS, which is awesome. So seeing if the corporate could, do that, and you're thinking like corporate, they have all the extra people and so forth. I'm sorry, they're in a state of state right now. They're scaled back as much as they can to even barely keep their stores open. And limited hours and so forth, even if the stores are still even there. So they're even, they're feeling a lot of a pain. And, that article about burritos does not help at all whatsoever, showing what actually is going on state to state. So it gave me kind of a good positive feel in the sense that they're there, they know their community, and they know that there's another shop in town called Recycle Cycles where their customer, if a customer comes in there and they just don't fit that price point, they know they have another shop in town they can direct them to, that kind of thing. So it's more of that community. So needless to say, also this employee, he worked at an independent bike dealer in Cali. So it's like one of those things where a lot of these shop employees that work for Trek, Specialized, REI, Mike's Bikes, what have you, they've been from independent, a lot of them have been from independent bike shops. They're bike people. You can't blame them for better salary and benefits. You just can't bend it up. But they're not the ones that call them the shots. Like I mentioned before in other videos, it's the corporate thinking that they know everything, cookie cutter. It has to work with all the stores the same way, perspective, where that sometimes does not resonate whatsoever. I know Trek had some serious issues at the beginning when they had corporate stores. They just fired everybody and realizing they just can't fire everybody because they don't have anybody that's good enough to replace. It's bad MO or whatever for them, bad imaging. So they changed their tune and try to be a little bit better. Try to be one of the better places to work in the cycling industry, that kind of thing. So they try, but and again, they're never going to be perfect. Nobody is. But at least they're doing something instead of nothing. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, they're still catering to the higher end market. That's what they are. So as long as you give better customer service and so forth, that'd be great. But in any case, that's that. But anyway, so that was my little, field trip yesterday after dropping off my boxes on that. But talking about the cycling news, I mean, bicycle retailer this month, got this 2 days ago. First thing is tariffs. This one's from December. Tariffs, right? Oh, that's traffic. Never mind. But I mean, it's like everything is just worried. And you look at these charts, and this is the stuff you don't get online. They don't post most of the stuff. So you have like a chart. It's going down that's the inventory for bikes for the last year. And there's, let's see, what other industry in chaos. I've used that a couple times. Chaos. A couple interviews. Oh, there's a interview or a blurb about Greg LeMond. I'll have to read that. Oh yeah, and there's a thing about Scott bikes going to direct to consumer, which that's nothing new really. I mean, they're just now doing it. The other thing that was very interesting in the CABDA show was Intense. There's an article on a bicycle retailer about Intense doing a program for their dealers or new dealers alike. I can even do it here myself, being a garage shop guy. And that was a fun conversation because what they were doing is I can have an account, you can look online and see what frame, this is full suspension stuff, you can see what frame that you would like. Then they have a QVP portal, which is a parts supplier that has different kits. So you can order it all up and have it shipped to the store, and the store doesn't have to commit to buying all this stuff until it's actually sold, and they don't have to basically buy it up front and sit on it and try to sell it. It's basically an online version of custom building a full suspension bike, which is a very cool concept. And I talked about Bradley about this, being like a frame manufacturer. You can get kits built up and that kind of thing. Same concept. But what was very intriguing is the other brands there at the show were like, very interesting. They're like, they want to see how this plays out, because if it seems to works well, they may do the same. For example, Niner, they do some nice high-end stuff, or any brand really, especially the smaller brands. If QVP can cater to smaller frame manufacturers that build them here or abroad, whatever, therefore they can get parts kits, and you can kind of cherry pick exactly what you want going through the QVP portal and that kind of thing. So this is all new stuff. But this could also, the concept could be also cookie cuttered and put into, let's say, the pros closet. They have a frame and they have a whole bunch of new and used stuff mixed, and you can do a drop down and put it all together. What's the Achilles heel for the average cyclist and even mechanics alike that may not be familiar with that brand of building up a custom bike? Well, you got to make sure all the parts fit. You order the right stuff, because nobody likes to buy it, I'll try it, oh, it doesn't work, then you have to send it back. That's just time consuming and frustrating. But if you had like drop downs, like, okay, these things are going to fit the bottom bracket with that crankset that you decided to get, with that headset, with that particular fork, and through axles and all those compatible bits, as the easy platform, is the pros closet could do something like that with the used bikes. Therefore, I think you'd have a great way to custom build up used and new philosophy. So that was very entertaining. And the really fun part about it is you may not know the guy's name, but his name is Mike Carr. And he used to work at Specialized, like one of the uppity ups. And he switched over to Intense a few years back, and now they're doing that. So he's been in the industry for a long time, kind of a legend in the sense of, if you know the names anyway of the bigger guys. It's up there with like John Burke and those various other bigger names that are industry people, not necessarily the racers like Gary Fisher and LeMond and so forth, but there's other influencer type individuals. And I got to meet him in person, and we chat for quite a bit, and how it's playing out. So yeah, that was a really cool, interesting conversation, and it's very interesting what they're trying to do with the Intense, which might transform a lot of the high-end stuff. Because the way to think about it, come on, if you're buying a $5,000 bike, do you want to look like everybody else? No. And if you're buying a $5,000 bike, there's going to be certain componentry that you prefer over something else, versus I buy it, then I got to swap it all out. Well, what if you could buy it, buy the frame, and you can pick the wheels, and you can do the drivetrain, and do a 2x, 1x, whatever, and you can pick the grade or the price point and that kind of thing. Is back in the day, and still is, that you have a nice frame and it'd have like a good, better, best Grupo on there, and that gave the customer an opportunity to buy a little bit cheaper bike, which now they're all absorbently expensive, but a little bit cheaper, and go, okay, later on I can upgrade the drivetrain or get a different wheel set, but for right now, for my budget, I can pay this X versus the other one, because if I'm going to pay that X amount, I want to have custom wheels built by Sugar Wheels in Oregon or something else, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. Another part here in the bicycle retailer is the U.S. bike imports trading 12 months from December 24. This chart's not seen on their website, and when you get the paper version, and Josh at Precision E-Bikes, like, there's not an e-bike class on here yet, so they're not reporting that. It's mixed in with kids, 20-inch, 24, 27, 700C, which would be road, the mountain comfort, which is two different worlds, but it's the same dollar amounts. But what's interesting about this, it does have a breakdown what China makes in dollars amount. It does have a breakdown in Taiwan. I'm not sure if we have tariffs on Taiwan or not, but apparently we're supposed to be equal match to all tariffs of all countries, including Cambodia. And Cambodia is on there now because that's becoming now a newer epicenter of bike building. That's where Trek is having a lot of their bikes built. That could be just mainly Trek's numbers. Vietnam was another one was listed in the prior articles, and they have a catch-all for all other countries, and the total world amount. So looking for 24, and the units builds were up 13% from 23. So that would probably be more of the e-bike. Okay, where's the increase? Would be the 20-inch and the kids. So basically kids bikes is the increase of the last year, and the dollar per unit is gone down. Is it $1 billion, about $1 billion less in sales, decrease from 22. So there's definitely from 22, 23 to 24. So if you like numbers, there they are. Maybe I should take a picture of that and post it somewhere, just to give people insight. Actually, I'll do that on a post after this. Talked about Shimano. So state of the state, yeah, and of course, it's not. I'm not proud of this, but it is what it is. I mean, okay, I made a channel. I'm showing videos and working on bikes, featuring bikes that I refurbish, some techniques, tips and tricks. Woo. Still recovering from Vegas apparently. And I finally get monetized, and then one of my customers was talking about a shop, and this is right when Specialized went to direct to consumer, and he talked to the shop owner, and he was like pissed off, and I saw some things that, it just doesn't ring me right. So I made a video, is this it for Specialized? And that took off. I mean, it was like my first video that blew up. And of course, it's a topic everybody likes to see big companies fail thing. And it wasn't my best video, so don't judge me. It was one of those rambling ones, like it should have been alive, but but it was that, and it took off. And then ever since, the topic ones have taken off. So this alludes into what I'm current state of the state. What videos that give the highest video counts are the ones that are the topic pieces, i.e. Merida taking a loss and Giant is down 60% in a margin was the other big one. And of course the one on Sunday that is like it's retail suicide, which I got from industry person, comrade at the show. We were talking about retail and how they're behaving and how they have to deal, and mentioned retail suicide, which I just stuck in my head and started spooling all these different perspectives, really, between the corporate bike shop and how the bike shop can really what needs to be done. So it has a pretty good push to it. Well, what I'm getting back to is these topics, needless to say, is my opinion pieces of my perspective of, like in a bicycle retailer or various other sources, and just going from there and see what my perspective is being around for so long. So in any case, it's one of those situations where, okay, how do I grow my channel? How do I grow as a shop? There's only so many tune-ups I can do by myself. I don't want to expand. I don't want to have a brick and mortar store again. I still want to work on bikes, but I don't want to do a high volume and kill myself. I'm getting older. Things hurt more. All those things. So the YouTube was like or social media is a way to do that. And there goes into my last topic that I was going to talk about. I was like, how do you support a channel of perspective? Well, the traditional support of a channel from like a bike shop perspective, you have a channel, you may have a little talk session, you may feature some new bikes. That could be cross-channeled over to Instagram and various other platforms of social media. It just basically gives you awareness. So when they go to your website and you click one of those buttons, you have something there, that kind of thing, and something more relevant and current. And it just gives you more weight to your shop and experiences and all that kind of thing. And whatever your niche is, and that's another way you can venture those niches. Well, as a bike shop, a traditional brick and mortar, you're trying to sell your niche and your brand and the brands that you sell, which is fine. Which goes back to the big conversation we were talking about, and there's an article in Bicycle Retailer about bike brands should be basically paying bike shops to sell their stuff. Like we are paying we're paying everything: the lights, the electricity, the people to sell it, the square footage of rent. They should be paying the bike shop to put their products in there. That's a concept is not new. It's one of those concepts where some bike shops have kind of fallen into, and like, okay, we'll send you a couple of bikes, and when they sell, you just pay for that. I would love to see, back in the day, we sold and rented Rosinal skis and snowboards. And Rosinal had a program where if you buy the inventory and what didn't sell by the end of the season, box up, send it to them, they'll cut you a check or take it off your bill, and then they'd ship all that product down to the southern hemisphere. It was a win-win because they were able to cycle the inventory out, give it to in a market where they still have opportunity to sell. They may have less of a margin, but it's a way for them to just keep moving that product and flushing it out and not sticking the shops and able to have the shops to carry more inventory. That concept can be applied to bikes, and some bike brands should really leverage more of that, especially when it comes to upper end stuff, because they're going to have to, because bike shops are not going to want to buy anything. I mean, that's just what it comes down to. They're afraid to buy anything because they're afraid to be sitting on it for too long and have to pay those bills and not able to pay those bills in 6 to 9 to a year or whatever. Or if they own their inventory, they don't want to invest that much money on something that's going to have only one turn. I mean, so therefore, that's what you got. So when you're going back to the shops having a social media presence, a lot of them have a hard time wrapping their head around it because it's not an instant return, only as in brand building. And then that's like, well, can we afford somebody to do all that stuff? I mean, the straight answer is no. I mean, honestly, what I do and how much I put into this, I make pennies on the dollar compared to doing a regular job. I just love doing this. Therefore, for example, i.e. this video, once it goes in circulation to be for paid promotions being added to it, my last video, I made $5. So I did 2 hours of work for $2.50 an hour. But that's not the point of reason why I'm doing it, obviously. I mean, if it was that, I would have stopped a long time ago. It's the engagement with you guys, chitter-chatting in chat, bringing up ideas, have a community feel base, and welcome you to my shop and having this experience. For me, it's in a way, without alcohol, a happy hour. It's a coffee hour, like our way of having a conversation. If I had some scones to share, I would. But I mean, it's like those situations where you can build that community and so forth. And I'm sure somebody along the line is probably bought something from me through either the videos, most likely. But these live chats are something that just kind of validates what I do. You actually get insights of and able to communicate firsthand without having to wait for an email back communication. And also I have other people in the chat that are part of the community too, where they have experiences in shops or out of shops, and they can contribute to our community, right? So therefore, bike shops can try to leverage that, but what a bike shop can leverage if they don't have time, especially if it's a little bit bigger shop but they don't have a huge marketing department, or they don't see the quick profit of it. It was a comment in one of the chats of saying like, well, why don't you leverage the YouTube influencers? Like, in other words, the show could be brought to you by Will and Sprocket. Will and Sprocket, they're having a great sale, huge sale coming up in later April when they're bringing it back. Well, the reason why I say that is I know Noah at Will and Sprocket. I work for him through Retail Toolkit, and he'd be a great opportunity to work with to do leverage of extra community. So if you're in Wisconsin area or in Chicago, they have a couple stores there. Great family-owned business. They've been around for decades, primarily a truck dealer. But hey, they've been trying to do it right for a long time, originally from their dad. And that's one of those things, like it's one of those extended family businesses where I would be more than happy to promote as much as I could in my platform. So therefore, if you're a bike shop looking for other ways to leverage it without having a team leveraging YouTube and all the social media, you can use it as influence, like all the other companies are trying to use YouTube or social media outputs as well, using indirect. So it's a way of doing it. So in any case, you talk about your next promotions or whatever. And believe me, the social media people, they don't need to be paid a lot. I mean, some are, really up there and so forth. But if you're just like an entry level, i.e. me, lower numbers and that kind of thing, just some kickbacks or maybe even just a discount on costs on parts would make me happy. Anyway. But you're looking at all those particular perspectives. So the perspective of a bike shop, or even a small one individual shop that yourself, you're listening in. It's like, it can be leveraged. You don't have to put out a lot of videos. There's a couple of them that actually are trying to do the game and have a paywall and sell information and all that. And that's fine. More power to them. But for me, I want to try to keep it as free as possible, in a sense that you get the information as a consumer or community or that kind of bit. But, for me, the other ways without coming across getting up to, hey, I've reached 10,000 subs. That's the magic number, apparently, when a lot of companies send you a lot of freaking emails. The last one was the greatest, is basically hair coloring product, so I can really feature my highlights in my hair, which I have none. No. So that really kind of blows my mind. But I mean, they're not looking at what you do; they're just pumping everybody that has 10,000 subs and more, that kind of thing. But I do have kind of a relationship with Menham Bikes. They sent me one and featured in the video. And I'll be doing some reviews on some of the others. It's a great opportunity to get a bike that's a lower price, that's new, that kind of thing. Not a sales pitch for them, but that's an opportunity that you can get a discount and I get a little kickback kind of thing. That's where I can leverage those particular ones. So when going to the show, that was kind of my epiphany, is like, well, maybe I can work with a couple of the brands as the social media perspective, which if you've seen Active Matty or whatever, he's a former baseball player locally in Denver. He's got a couple of contracts with some of those other people. He's not a bike person, right? But he goes out there and is like, oh, this is cool. I got 30,000 followers and whatever it is. And he's getting those brand deals, right? So that's how he's like making his money. And I think he's getting a whole bunch of bikes from Walmart now and, pushing all those. But, his videos are kind of dry and really don't on a tech perspective of it, it falls short. It's just more of like, this is cool. I had a good experience on it. That's about it. How long is it going to last? Is it to work on? Is it easy to build? Is it safe to ride? All those other things that you get from a normal bike shop kind of perspective. But in any case, those particular perspectives, and I talked to a couple of brands, but and then I applied for them, and one I got like turned out immediately, and a thing I didn't get told why. That's just not a good fit, and I'm thinking, how's it not a good fit? Well, topic videos, they don't want somebody talking kind of weird about the industry, probably. May be part of it, or maybe they're just not adding more affiliates. But more is more, it's like it's a two-edged sword. Like I mentioned before, my biggest successes is, on topic pieces versus actually tech pieces on that, for me. For some reason, the Bike Farmer guy, he puts out some random USA mid-90s bike long video, and it gets like 20 or 30,000 views. I don't think he's that personal and no more different than me, but hey, that's just me. But still, it's like he gets that. So but I'm, for me, I have to do what I, see the numbers, see the analytics. It's like, okay, this is where I could launch. So if a brand could see through that, like Menham's, like, well, we just want you to feature products and get in front of your audience. Regardless, it's like, bad news or shock value or whatever, clickbait still gets views. I mean, that's the thing. But in any case, I mean, I was wondering if that was one of those deterrents of getting some of those other brands, and we'll see. Maybe it wasn't, but regardless, it's on to the next. But that's where, if you were looking into having a little shop and doing videos, and that's when that would be possible, one of the possible incomes, basically. Product placement, product review. There's one shop, I think Lone Wolf or something like that. And it's just a whole bunch of products that he reviews and so forth, which is fine. I mean, he's doing what he's doing and is being successful. That's great. How I foresee, I really don't know. I mean, it all depends, where it goes. I know I'm not going to make millions doing this. I'm in the cycling industry. As anybody who's watching this is in a shop, knows we're not doing it because we're going to make money. We're in it because we love cycling. We love the passion of the culture. We love bikes and how cool they are, and cool stuff of old to new and new to old. And that's what makes us tick. And, if we can make a living out of it, that's even better. So therefore, that's where we're looking at. And when you're looking at a bike shop and a garage trying to leverage social media to make a little bit of income, it probably will never be my full income, because I like doing tune-ups and I like taking care of my local community. I don't think that ever is going to stop until I physically can't do it anymore. But at some point, it's time. And there's only so much time I can do. I did a huge sacrifice of really indulging into the YouTube world a year and a half ago. Spent a lot more time doing that than I should have been focusing on doing tune-ups. So there's a payback, but I was able to financially kind of get through that part. And now it's I wouldn't say it's fully paying me back by any means, but I'm looking at it as a 3 to 5 to 10 year run. So when I get to that 10-year mark, I put out a couple really high quality, good videos, and they do very well. And then I have some brand deals that kind of help, things come along. So it's like I'm not working less, but I'm not working as hard. Let's put it that way. Physically, because, being on concrete for so many hours a day, it's crushing. And, working on bikes physically could be, physically harmful. I mean, I have more cuts and scars on my hands than most people because of, nicks, cuts. I mean, I have one good gouge from a kickstand, like from 20 years ago. It's still there. It's like, I look like Edward Scissorhands, but just in the hands, that kind of thing. But anyway, Chitty Chat Power Hour. Thanks, Josh. Yeah, freight, that's where, Randy, would go back on the freight. That's where, quite honestly, if I'm just, it's going to take a lot for me to get a vendor that I want a vendor to buy from. Reason being is, one is freight. Because when you're looking at QBP and JB and all those, if I think it was like $400, $500 from QBP, that's a big chunk of orders that a shop my size may need only like 50, $100 every other week. So paying freight on top of that, that's not good. So for me, buying from Jensen's or 365 Cycles, which uses the QVP platform, which I know is coming from QVP, maybe a little bit more, but I don't have to pay up to $400 or $500 to get free freight, and from them, I only have to pay $50 or over to get free freight. So I make it up the difference in freight, and with Jensen's, you don't pay, if you're out of state of California, you're not paying sales tax. So as long as I get it on sale and it's a decent price and just roll over the cost of the bikes I'm refurbishing or the repair. I'm not here to make money on the parts, really, because I'm not going to stock very many of them except for the wax chains. But other than that, though, everything else, I don't even care if people bring in their own parts. That's fine, because I'm just, providing the service. I'm here for the labor. And my cost of business is so low that that's all I need is the labor. I don't need to make 40 points, 35 points on every little thing I sell, because those are such a small volume. And when I sell used stuff, that's a whole different game on that. So between freight and tariffs and the costs and all of that, it can definitely kill a lot of shops that are not in a position to be able to do adjustments. Oh, thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. You got a couple chains for me and got some t-shirts. See, I rather, you buy the t-shirt, you at least get some. I don't make a lot. It was like maybe $4 or $5, but hey, every little bit helps. I mean, that's all great, and I appreciate the support. You're basically supporting what I do. And apparently the soapbox Kool-Aid I'm spewing, or anti-Kool-Aid, maybe it's anti-Kool-Aid, is something that, needs to be listened more. And that's what the video was about last Sunday. It was basically the conversations of the show. We were talking about bike shops and how they were afraid to say anything about any of their vendors because they would be afraid to lose their dealer agreements. Even though they're not getting very much support or anything from them, they're afraid of not having them. And we were in the same case in the late 90s and the early 2000s. And when Trek dropped us, because my dad had a hard time he came down with cancer, and his chemo treatment, he didn't have the mental capacity or fluidness that he was all the years before. He kept everything in his head, and he wouldn't let go of it. So part of the self-destruction on that, but he got so behind on Trek bills that they basically let us go. And they're finding out later there's other things in play. But there was a short window there that our customers were coming in and buying the other brands that we had that were not main brands, and they would have been fine with those. So that particular aha moment, although it was too late for us, was still really the brands did not dictate the shop. The niche of the shop dictates your customer base. So it doesn't matter if you're selling the Treks or the Specialized or the Fujis or Roadmaster or Huffy's. It's they're coming in, they're looking for your expertise, and this is what you have. And as long as you can validate the product that you have on the floor, they were fine with it. And I remember in the early Trek days, nobody knew Trek. They were like, who are these people? Okay, you say they're cool, that's fine. I like you, you like them, that's fine. That's all it was. And quite honestly, we need to get back to that point as independent bike shops in a sense. But in a thing that the bike shops are they're afraid or don't want to talk about it because they're still afraid of losing that brand because those customers may be, they're worried about losing any customers at this point, like any customers, and that's problematic. So yeah, and those brands don't have as much weight or strength right now, and this is a great opportunity to be able to go back to those brands behind closed doors and it's like, look, this is what we need. This is how we need it. This is how we're going to survive. If not, we're not going to be here for you to sell anything to. And good luck finding another dealer because right now, nobody's going to open up a damn bike shop. if their head screwed on tight enough, they're not going to even touch it. Like, oh hell no. Because you'll see a whole bunch of social influencers like me that still have shops or gone out of business and go, don't do it, because there's not a good place to do it really, especially for big brands to be filtered in. So there elude the conversation and where the suicide part of that conversation was. And then I started thinking about it. There's three perspectives of it. Well, you got the bike shop that been used to around the old Kool-Aid of we need to be this and sell this high-end stuff and not bend over backwards for customers and have that snobbish appears. I went over like, oh, what was it? I do have the points here. Yeah, the retail portion of it, you got, you're competing against online prices from Amazon and everybody else. So you got to not be all bent out of shape when somebody brings in a chain, and that's what alludes to the poor customer service. And inventory management, you got to scale back on inventory. You can't have it all in. And then failing to adapt to new trends, e-bikes, Canyon bikes being brought in your store to be tuned up. I've had one shop mention like, we won't touch those. And like, that's a customer, needs your help. He will give you money. I mean, yeah, you might be trying to hold up to your principle, but unfortunately, there's more often than not stuff being sold online than you'll ever. If you shut off all of that, you're not going to have any service. And then the lack of community engagement, where a lot of us have been doing it. I'm not saying that, but there's other ways of getting into more stuff. I actually added a lot more community events in the last year than I ever did. I only did the Bike MS, but now last year I did like 4 other ones, and I got so much out of it. It was great. May not do all of them again, but for a good portion of it, I'll look out and do another ones. So that was the retail perspective of self-imploding suicide. Okay, and the other one was the manufacturer one, where they undercutted their dealers, were direct to consumer. You got the Trek specialized version of that, that kind of thing. All the other companies are following suit, so you have to navigate that. And then they're losing dealers, and now they have no dealers to sell to. And that was that kind of perspective. But what started the whole conversation is, well, where if a bike shop said something bad about one of their vendors that they're carrying, all of a sudden they're in hot water and losing their dealership. And that's the suicide portion of it. Or not stocking the inventory, or can't stock the inventory because they're not getting the right pricing. Or they're worried about buying a whole bunch of bikes in pre-season, and that brand decides to discount it online a month later after the season hits because they're not selling anything, and they're not reimbursing that shop the difference of cost because they paid the higher costs on that, which I believe it should not be a 30-day or 60-day. It should be a season rebate, because you as a bike shop invested of commitment of those units, and if they're undercutting you online on sales, it doesn't help anybody out. You basically, the brands have basically, especially Trek and Specialized, have devalued their brands so much because they've been on sale for so long. This is not just specific to cycling, it's specific to all retail, especially specialty retail, where they're expecting a discount. They're expecting it to be on sale. They're not going to buy it on regular MSRP unless they just have the money and they just want it. But there alludes not that many customers have that luxury. So here we are in a scenario where you got too much inventory still. You got prices conditioned to always, has to be on sale. So as a bike shop, bringing in any new product has to be very, very cautious. And they buy too much, they can put themselves under fast. We went out of business in 6 months. Train wrecked so damn fast. It was a combination of bad market, expanded when we shouldn't have, and the accounting behavior of my father, unfortunately. It turned out that there was another player that was wanting the Trek brand, and they basically pushed it a little bit faster because they wanted to become a chain location for a higher volume in the market. And a few years later, they're out of business too. So whatever. But it's like, I don't hold a grudge, but still pissed off about it. I mean, you can still be mad. And there alludes that things like that have been happening they've been not being the greatest to independent shops for a long time. I mean, yeah, maybe we're an outlier, but most often or not that kind of thing. But in any case, there we got it. There it is. All right. Ooh, man, it's almost been time for 2 hours. I'm surprised I haven't gone to the bathroom yet. Old man bladder. All right, let's look at a few more of these chats. Have the bug that don't overstock. Yeah, right now, well, right before COVID, a lot of bike shops were basically leveraging QBP, JMB, and even Trek to, yeah, we will only order when we need it and have minimum orders and stuff. Then there was the scare tactic, like, well, if you don't order it and get it in, you're not going to get it at all, which that BS is gone. And then they're right back to where we were. Well, I'm pretty much, if anybody gave numbers, like, well, we're not ordering at 19 or 2018 number inventory. We're way less than that because, you know, the cost, and especially on bikes, I mean, yeah, it's just insane. Green, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Randy, again, thank you for chiming in, for sure. Little question of y'all. Can you speak about the experiences over the years on the difference between cycling culture and industry between Fort Collins and Boulder? Ooh, yeah. I'm originally, well, my bike shop experience originated from Parker Bikes in Parker. I left there in 2001 when we closed our doors, and I moved up to Fort Collins. I worked at Lee Cyclery. And Lee Cyclery was, at the time, a Trek and Specialized dealer. And Boulder's always been known to be like the bike shop on every corner. It still is today. There's a lot of bike shops up there and a lot of cycling, huge cycling community. Between the Boulder and all the way up to Fort Collins, there's like 3 or 4 cities in between. A lot of them adapted, especially a lot of them adapted to a lot of bike lanes, bicycle paths, and so forth. We have now gone out east, so gone all the way out to Greeley. There's the bike paths being directed that way. So you can go and do a century, almost a double century on bike paths alone in this area on a single day without being on the same path twice. So therefore, the culture then was, mountain bikes was still pretty hot. Road was still carrying off of Lance Armstrong's wins in the early 2000s. The volume of repairs when I was a service manager at Lee's in the early 2000s was astronomically freaking huge. Massive amount of repairs, like just insane. I never experienced it. Even in the bike shop that we had in Parker, we did a lot of volume, but man, this was like on steroids. And that was great, but as in the cycling culture of independent bike shops, because there was no corporate stores at that time, the only thing that was corporate would be REI or Sports Authority at the time. And I hit the glass ceiling. So a lot of shop people hit the glass ceiling. It's like, okay, I can't get promoted more or get paid more, so I have to go somewhere else. I went to go work for Big Fast Sporting Goods. I was there for 9 years. Although I did work out part-time at the bike shop as, working on bikes and so forth. So I was still had a finger on the game, but my main salary was definitely from a corporate chain, and therefore that's where I made benefits and paid kind of time off and so forth. So Green, that's your culture there, but there's a lot of people that came out of the Fort Collins area that became professional riders. Being a college town back in the early 2000s, we had a stellar amount of mechanics coming from small mom and pop shops, which now today there's no more mom and pop shops producing those entry-level mechanics because they didn't have high school jobs anymore in bike shops because those bike shops don't exist or they weren't hiring. That was one of the degradations there, and also in the mid 2000, like 2005-ish, 2006, that's when they started doing the Trek concept stores and specialized concept stores, which leveraged and made a lot of those shops pick one or the other. And Lee's became the Trek, and our competitor Peloton became the specialized concept stores. And that's where they were pushing all the Kool-Aid, and that's where the brands got so big enough where they carried everything from gloves to tubes to tires to everything in between, so that you can fill a whole store from end to end. So that's what your synapse of like the 2000s. was, and then the tech evolved and so forth. But then here's the crazy bit. The used market came being, Recycle Cycles was local in the Fort Collins area, the used bikes and so forth. But that's when the Pros Closet was born around that time. eBay was selling all the used parts and bike frames and everything was being launched and selling a whole bunch. So the ecosystem change was changing to more online, more online, more online, more online. Everything's you know, fast forward 15, 20 years later, everything is online based. We're conditioned to be that way. We want to have something be shipped to our house that afternoon. And that's just, what's left of the cycle culture is there's a few shops that still do the higher end niche kind of thing. But a lot of them are more of the lower end, like Recycle Cycles or mid range. That kind of fitting piece, or they do multiple things like outdoor, like hiking and camping and also biking kind of stuff as smaller. But that's where you're kind of seeing where the shops are altering their niches, or they basically have gone under. But talking about the 5 locally owned shops, Peloton and Lee Cyclery, well, now you got Trek concept stores and Specialized concept stores on top of Dick's Sporting Goods and Shields and REI, and it's been a roll. It's been an interesting roll. Great question. Hope that gave you a little bit of a synapse. What I'm going to try to do is try to reach out to some of watch a couple of my videos on John Bradley. He has more historical facts on his videos. I want to get a hold of a couple of former employees of Lee's that have retired now, and kind of their cycling experience and so forth. One, if he's still alive and still coherent, which I don't know how he would be, but such a cool cat. Bill West is one of the ones I would like to talk to if he's still want to communicate those stories. He was old when I started working in Lee's, so who knows. But in any case, he's one. Another one used to be a former manager of Lee Cyclery, and his experiences too would be really cool. Oh, take off the rubber gloves. Yeah. Anyway, there we have it in a nutshell. Yeah, so these are the things that, over months and months you come across. Get little bits of gold nuggets here and there. Featured articles of particular bike shop owners and so forth. The paper version of this is pretty gold. That kind of thing. But the online has a lot of topics, and there's other syndicates out there that are I see once in a while. Pink Bike has some of their new stuff there, but it's more off-road, dirt-oriented. There's a couple other ones there, but anyway. But yeah, hopefully you got some cool tidbits and some information there, and a little bit of insight. So we'll be making up some Cabda videos and talk about some of the brands that were there and where they're at, which I was kind of surprised. A couple of eye openers there. It was kind of fun. Ran into more people than I thought I would run into. Not being directly into their mix in their world, but apparently it's small enough that a lot of us still know each other, which is awesome. And it's really fun to make those connections and that kind of thing. And the experience there was pretty cool. That was my first Cabda show, and I would say hopefully they keep strong. Great concept because they kept it free for the bike shop owners, and they had some really cool events that were related to. Hopefully they can expand and make it a little bit bigger. It was pretty small, I do have to say. About football field, maybe 2 at best in size, and that included the actual test track for riding e-bikes. But back in the day, to put it in perspective, back in the day when there was no internet, basically sales and so forth and that kind of thing, or information, or independent shows from bikes, like Trek used to have theirs and Specialized used to have their own. But before that, there was Interbike, which was in Vegas, where that was so colossally huge. It was, I'd say about 10 football fields, if not bigger. And it would take you several days to walk it and talk to the vendors that you wanted to talk to. And this was from everything from somebody making packs to sweatbands to hats to already to componentry, and the whole bike lines, like GT was there, Trek was there, Specialized was there. Everybody can sniff out everybody's stuff. And then all the vendors, of course. And they'd had also an Asian market area where it was all like the wholesale. That's where like Trek would talk to somebody else from Asia that build certain parts for whatever, that kind of thing. Just an example. I'm not sure exactly what they would work, but it was colossal. And then from there, it just kind of broke up and came really muddled, because if you're a shop owner and you carry Trek and Specialized, and then Trek has had their own show and they would not go to Interbike, and same thing for Specialized, and all of a sudden you're making 3 trips, taking you out of the store 3 weeks out of the year, when it should have been just one back in the day. It became very painful for shop owners to navigate through that. So in any case, that's kind of the insights of what the 90s compared today. Pretty small. I was at the last Interbike back in like, what was it, 2017, 18, whatever there. The last one was in Reno. The one before that was Vegas, but it was about the same size, pretty small, and really not much enthusiasm. But unfortunately, with this particular one, I mean, the culture's there. That's the takeaway. The culture's still there. The smaller brands and, you know, the people that are in it are in it. They're still here. They still want to do it. That's the positive note. The negative note is we're all scared shitless. What's going to go from here? It's really unknown. There's no historical records to lean on. Nothing. It's just hoping, really hoping for the best, and hopefully we made the right decisions on a lot of different things, and protecting the core of the shop, the core of your philosophy, the core of your niche, and hopefully we're still taking care of the community and cycling. Like I said before, the silver lining is people are still riding their bikes and still going to need stuff worked on. That's going to be there for sure. So we're still here for that for now. And until then, we're going to keep plugging away and seeing what we can do to make it better for everyone. In any case, hopefully you got some good insights, and hopefully it's nice in your neck of woods. Go for a ride. Yeah, you know, help my channel by just watch my stuff. You don't have to buy anything, but if you want to, thank you again for buying a couple, t-shirts. Hopefully, fun as gifts. Frank, appreciate it. Wax chains, check them out. Doing them myself and suggesting somebody doing it themselves, you can. But a colossal pain in the ass. But once you get there, you're great. But the $20 for a little bit more for a chain, it's a sanity tax that you're getting the benefits without the pain of it. And watch my video on refreshing it. It's super easy, really. And then you can, with the ConX chain, you can pop it off yourself without a tool and send it to your local shop to have it re-waxed. Or you can have it, I have a service so you can send it to me, but locally is probably the best. Or if you really just want to buy the little crock pot thing, I think Vital Chains has their own little inexpensive crock pot thing that you can buy, which is half the cost of the Silco one, so check it out. And it's really just a little bit of wax. I think he has a whole kit too, which is actually a great thing. Actually, I'll put his link in the description below to his website. He's a cool guy, waxes several chains. I'm sure if there's something specific, you can reach out to him. It's like, hey, can you get this chain, whatever, and have it waxed. He has the process down. His techniques are solid, just as much as mine or Silka's or anyone else's. So, and they're not, terribly expensive, that kind of thing. That's if you want to go down in that direction. But yeah, I'd try it out. I've done it on all my bikes, and I haven't had greasy marks on my legs in a long time, which is really nice. And some of the stuff holds up fairly well. And just to protect your componentry long term, it's even better. But it's also really quiet and smooth. It shifts really nice. In any case, apparently it's non-petroleum based, so it's more eco, maybe, I don't know. Or like Zero Friction is a channel that does a lot of testing on a lot of waxes, and he tested just candle wax straight up, and apparently that chart showed that it outperformed any petroleum-based drip lubes or Teflon-based. So like even the cheapest stuff, it works better than that. That's telling you something. In any case, thanks again for hanging out with me. And again, if it's Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. And until next time, if it's beautiful in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. And I'm sure after the next few days, there's going to be a colossal crap ton of topics to talk about. So we'll loop back here and see how things are faring up. But hope your week goes great. And until next time, thank you for being part of this community. Until next time, have a great day.